roster. How has it been this past month since the end of the Peach Bowl? What's basically been on your mind? How have you just didn't embrace the offseason so far?
It hasn't been an off-season. Been busy. One, transfer portal, trying to add a couple more guys to help the roster, which we've done a pretty good job at. And then secondly, I've had some staff guys move on. Zach Graham went to Cincinnati and Cass Simmons. So great opportunity for those guys. And Zach Wicke just took a GA job at Akron. So I'm in the process of filling those spots these last few weeks.
Ryan's touched on a lot about the state of NIL and whatnot, where Ohio State is in comparison to other programs. Just what's your take on where Ohio State is in NIL and the situation that's here at this point?
Yeah, I'll defer, what Ryan said earlier. But, it's a real thing. We deal with it. And my only comment is I just hope there's a lot of really smart people in this profession that we can all come together and get a solution to this as quickly as possible.
How many hours a day or people do you have to put on monitoring the portal and everything? Because that's become a very real part of this whole process. So we can sit here and say, well, you didn't sign any kids today, but the portal seems to be endless.
Yeah, so we have a full-time staff member, Billy Homer, longtime NFL scout, and came from the University of Florida. That's his full-time job, is he's in charge of the portal. And so the month of December and January have been very hectic for him. So he's done a great job for us to be ahead of the curve and doing a great job with his evaluations to find guys who might be a great fit.
A lot of armchair quarterbacks out there like, well, you need this and you need this and you need this, but just how difficult is it to vet all these portal guys and to find people that actually fill needs, because pretty much every portal person that's coming to Ohio State has hit.
Yeah, it's a great point. So a lot of vetting going on. We want to make sure, most importantly, they're a great fit, because we feel like we have a great culture and great players here. So we want to make sure that it's all going to mesh well. We don't want to bring someone in and it's going to cause a disruption with the current players. Now we do want competition, and we'll never take a guy because we're scared that we may lose anybody here. So. But we do want to make sure it's going to be an upgrade. We don't want to just bring guys in to bring guys in. And the worst thing you can do is, bring in a guy and they expect to start, and that doesn't happen, because that can just ruin a locker room as well. So the guys we've brought in the past been home runs, and hopefully we continue to hit on those.
In the first few times that a transfer portal player is here, I got to imagine a lot of that is instilling the culture that Ohio State has, which people have said is different than a lot of the different places. How long of a learning curve is that usually to get people accustomed to how you do things here?
I think the new guys, when they first come in, are just kind of feeling their way around and kind of figuring out how they belong and how they fit. But we brought in some great character kids, and they get entrenched, and our guys have done a great job bringing them in as well and making them feel welcome. So both ways, it's been a great adjustment.
Does that mean maybe then it's easier to do that if they're all still automatically trying to find a new fit and they're willing to take that on?
Yeah, as long as they come in with the right attitude and put their head down and work hard, our guys are very willing to embrace them and show them the way.
In your eyes, what is the right opinion? What is the right attitude to have coming in here?
Yeah, just come in to compete for a spot, and knowing that nothing has been given to them, and just having that mindset of like, hey, I see these guys out here grinding. Here's what it takes to be at an Ohio State level. Here's the expectations. And they're out here, trying to fit in as well.
I'm not sure how many of those prospective guys will watch this, but in your eyes, what's the best way to make a first opinion to you, or first impression rather to you?
Yeah, just come in, put your head down, and work as hard as you can, especially at this time of the year with Mick. These workouts are getting pretty hard, so see how they fit in with those.
Mark, how did your job change when you go from director of player personnel to general manager? Now you don't have a director of player personnel again. Like, how is that affecting what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, the month of January has been hectic just with Zach leaving, and so I've been having to pick up his spot too. But, just as far as the overall role, Coach Dave, anybody watches Yellowstone, it's like my job now is to run the ranch, not necessarily work the ranch. And so, it's more of an overseeing. We have a great staff here. I mean, Aaron's a rock star. Zach did a great job in the year he was here. So more of being a support system to them. I've been trying to help out as much as I can in the NIL world of just with our current roster and taking some stuff off Coach Dave's plate during the season with that. So I'm always still going to be entrenched with the film evaluations, both on the high school and the college side. and really just being a support mechanism for Aaron with all the on-campus visits, still kind of helping out with the creative team, being an asset to them. But really less in the weeds of the day-to-day communication with recruits and more taking the back seat of, just in the big picture role.
You've been here with Ryan for almost 5 years, but you're still come up with Urban. The mentality's a little different. The control freak aspect. How hard is it for you to give away trust to someone like Zach for a year and then he's gone and now you have to start that again because you obviously have your hands on a lot of this stuff, but is that harder than you imagined because you have to let go of some of this stuff, or do you find yourself like diving back into it even though you don't want to?
A little bit of both. It always is in me of like the way I came up in this profession. It was really a 1 or 2 person show. So in nowadays it's 10 or 11 people per staff. So I still have that in me where I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty because that's the way I grew up, and so it'll always be a part of me. But at the same time, having 2 twins at home and being a father and good husband and having a lot on my plate as it is now with NIL, and it's not really recruiting 1 or 2 classes anymore. It's recruiting 3 or 4 at a time and having those evaluations ready and having your eyes on those. So it takes a lot of time as well anyway. And so I have to do a good job delegating or else I'll go crazy.
You're like the voice of player personnel in college football. When you have a problem, it becomes a problem for everyone, it seems like. How do you deal with this NIL stuff with other programs?
Yeah.
Are you talking to their guys? Are you guys working on something together? How do you approach it as a general collective?
It seems more of a venting session with each other. Everybody's kind of secretive about what they're doing specifically. Like I mentioned earlier, though, I think there's a lot of smart people in this profession. We all just need to get in a room and figure this out quickly because I don't think there's a lot of people who enjoy what's going on, and I think it's NIL isn't what it was intended to be, and so I'm raising my hand to help any way I can to get this solutions to get this fixed.
Maybe this has already been asked, but with the changes in the landscape, does that alter maybe how you deploy the net in terms of when you just start approaching the class and maybe how you allocate some resources, or what? Is there any way to describe that?
Definitely a new mindset of how we're going to have to approach things during this time. So obviously way more heavy in Ohio and the Midwest, and then regionally, we're gonna do our best as we've always has, but we may have to pull out of some recruiting some guys nationally quicker than we have if we know right away that NIL is going to be a main factor in the recruitments. It's just probably not something we're going to end up being able to compete with, by choice as well. And is that something we want to bring into the locker room as well? So, those are the conversations we have, in this day.
Is that something too, where then there's probably maybe more kids overall that you're trying to maintain relationships with at the beginning and into the kind of the intermediate area at least?
Yeah, obviously we're going to do our due diligence on everybody as usual, and then we just really have to do a better job vetting and seeing what's really important. We want kids, first of all, to want to come to Ohio State because of Ohio State and the great tradition, history of all the guys who've been here before them. And that number one thing that why we win, is that culture in that locker room. And so we can't do anything that's going to take away from that.
You guys kind of learn anything over the years about how to manage the guys that maybe definitely want to be Buckeyes, but you're not completely sure in February or March that they're the guys you want yet? I mean, of course, you know what I mean. Does that develop how you kind of maintain relationships with those guys over the years? I mean, have you learned things over the years, I guess?
Yeah, I think you're constantly learning and growing and evolving. But, when they get here on campus, you try to do the best job. It's almost like a job interview for them, and we're feeling them out. They're feeling us out. And we're just trying to make sure they're a great fit.
Is that easier now with travel and everything, all the visits and everything are allowed again and everything like that too?
Oh, post-COVID, much better and easier. Yeah.
But beneficial too.
Beneficial,
Local
correct.
People,
yes.
I guess too.
Yeah, the more times we can get them on campus, the more time our coaches can get to their high schools, the more opportunities to get information and gather information and learn about them learn about us.
With the kids where you're going to pull out of recruitments where it's clearly the kids just like, how much money can you give me? But that's not every kid. There are some kids where it's almost like, I have no choice. I can't pass this up. How do you differentiate those types of kids when you're going through a recruiting process, especially now where you might feel like you have a kid and then somebody offers them a type of money that you couldn't even pass at 17 years old?
Yeah, it's conversations we have all the time, and just going through names and where we're at on guys and what's what's going to make this kid make his decision. Is it going to be NIL? Is it going to be development and brotherhood and culture and winning and all the great things this place has to offer? Or is it going to be strictly because of money? And so those are the conversations we have. The worst thing we can do is waste a lot of time and effort on kids knowing that, and then you lose them at the end of the day. So you know what, we have those conversations daily of just the vetting process and gathering as much information as we can.
Can that sometimes change where you get a kid, you think it's about all that stuff, but then over time, the other part of this starts to play more of a factor?
Yeah, you have agents now, you have 7-on-7, you have all those people who are trying to get to these kids, and so we do the best we can of just knowing the circle, knowing the character, knowing the family background, just all those. You're asking a lot of questions now, just trying to feel it out.
Do you ever talk to donors or the people sponsoring the NIL money? Do you ever talk to them?
No, those are for the collectives for them to handle. So, we try to stay out of it.
You don't ever call them up. Okay. What's your average day like?
Majority of the day is watching film, probably, during the season from 8 to 9 hours a day just watching film. Trying to, help the coaches any way we can as well of just all the day-to-day operations, anything to get off Coach Day's plate. But most of my time is just the day-to-day upkeep of the board and watching film, and, whether it's 24, 25s, and unfortunately now even 26s. So.
You might have already been asked about this, Mark, but and Coach Day was talking about this, just the frustration level of you guys would know you would land X recruit, but, if not for NIL. Speak about the frustration level when that happens.
Yeah, I think just this year is the learning curve of how it actually, you feeling it the hard way. But, now that we've been through a full cycle, I think we'll go into this class with a better mindset of, spending our time and resources in certain areas versus others.
I think it says a lot, though, speaking of NIL, that you guys were able to retain so many players. Speak about that a little bit, too.
Yeah, no, that's been huge. That's been a lot of time with Coach Day. And, just the, our current team and our current retention is what NIL is for. The guys that have, really earned their namesake through their play on the field, and now with their name, image, and likeness, they're able to capitalize on that. And I think at a place like Ohio State, 15th largest city, with the power of this brand and the fan base, our guys are cashing in right now because of that. So that's what it was meant to be, and we're glad that they're having that opportunity.
And I know the NCAA finally is going to crack down, allegedly. There was a report a couple days ago from SI that
right.
It sounds like they're taking it seriously. It's got to make you guys feel good.
You're hopeful.
Trying to do
yeah,
the right thing.
Hopeful until it actually happens.
Yeah,
so.
Mark, apologies if you haven't asked this before, but the way that the portal is nowadays, your job has increased tenfold. How do you keep everything straight?
Yeah, just being organized. That's luckily a strength of mine. Is I think my organization. And like I mentioned, Billy Homer that's his full-time role is to handle the portal. So, as he's watching guys, he'll pass them on to me. Just get a second set of eyes, and then he's doing a great job working with the coaches to start that vetting process as we come across names.
Mark, how would you assess your 23 class as a whole? Some high-end talent at the top 5 class, but yet a high-end couple of misses. How would you kind of assess the whole 23 class?
Yeah, overall in this NIL world, I think we're very pleased. We signed 20 guys. The number may not be as high, but I think that's mostly because we had a lot of guys return back, whether it was Kate Stover, Xavier Johnson, Tommy Eichenberg. So those are like recruiting wins for us when we can get those caliber of players back. And so that's why we're on the lesser side overall, and then with the mindset of, hey, we know we're going to have to take a couple portal guys to just get some experience and, veteran guys who've kind of played some ball as well.
I also kind of want to get your thoughts on the recruiting calendar in general, early signing period in December when a lot's going on in addition, and transfer portal window when your season's still going on. Is that method sustainable? What's kind of your thoughts on the current landscape?
Yeah, current landscape will add a lot of gray hairs on coaches' heads. Championship games, on the road traveling, portal opening with 500 plus kids going in one day. That's hard. And so I think we need to take a hard look at the calendar and see how we can fix that.
Is there a sustainable method? Was it better when it was just one signing period, or what's kind of, if you have any thoughts on how to make it better?
Yeah, I think when the portal was more fluid and not, secluded to those dates, at least then it was more spread out and not 400 or 500 kids going in at a time. And so that made things much easier on the portal end. I think the early signing day is good in December for the high school kids because at least we can go into the holiday season, playoffs, or bowl season in the month of January, knowing that at least those guys are secured. I think something that I've talked to my colleagues about is potentially a July 1 signing day. It just, to me, makes sense that you have all these official visits coming in at the month of June, and if they're ready to make their decisions then, why can't they just go ahead and sign? And at least that clears out, another potential group of guys as well.
Mark, obviously there's a lot of Ohio guys that, want to be Buckeyes, that grew up being fans of this program. And as they get later in their college or high school careers, they could be frustrated that Ohio State is not looking at them. Obviously this is not new to Ohio State, but I guess in conversations with whether it's, 2024, 2025 guys that are seeking that Ohio State offer or high school coaches, how do you kind of get that message of, hey, we are recruiting in-state guys, but we also have this national footprint to get the best, or the expectation to get the best player possible too.
Yeah, we're always going to be trying to sign the best players possible, but the Ohio kids are always going to be on the top of that list in the forefront. So we spend more time evaluating those kids, whether that may be a fault of us, sometimes over-evaluating them. But I can guarantee you we spend and do our due diligence, go into those high schools more than we can, just to gather as much information and to we're trying to sign as many Ohio kids as possible. That's a big deal for us, for them growing up here, knowing the culture, most likely be willing to develop, not coming in with a lot of the expectations of I need to play right away. So those are all important factors for us that, in the ideal world, we're going to sign them as many and the best Ohio kids as we can.
Is there, I don't know, because is that a worry, in terms of just keeping that culture alive, to keep Ohio kids in Ohio? Is that one of the main focuses for it, and not exactly say, okay, a lot of five-star athletes? Because there is, I don't know, how do you guys approach kind of your approach to in-state?
Yeah, same thing. I said, in an ideal world, this year I think we signed 8 of the top 9 or something like that in Ohio. So, we're trying, and now in the NIL world, we're probably going to make that number should be higher.
Yeah.
And so we're really going out of our way to spend more time in the state of Ohio, and really try to find guys that maybe we don't think are as good here day one, but a couple years in the program we could see potential developmental guy and who's going to come here for all the right reasons.
Mark, you talked about culture. How much you guys are known as a faith-based program? Maybe not on the Clemson level. You don't put it on your sleeve quite that. Is that an advantage? I talked to Larry about it. I know where you stand. Do you, not target guys, but how much is that impact and is a positive for recruiting here?
Yeah, it's not brought up a ton. Some families will bring it up, and when they do, we certainly address all the stuff we do within our program to talk about that. But a lot of these kids, I think they come from, the ones that we're trying to recruit, come from such high character families, who that's part of who they are, and without necessarily bringing it up, but they just come from strong backgrounds and high education, and just completely clear character off the field. And so I think a lot of those things bring that. The faith is part of that.
But they know where you are, right? They know where you stand. They know where Larry stands, other guys on the staff.
Yeah, you hope that we use, like Larry and myself, use our platforms to show that through social media at times, or through when, Larry's talking to the team, bringing up some examples. So hopefully they see that that's part of who we are.
And that helps kind of keep the character without getting
Sure.
too, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Keep Christianese on it. It helps.
Absolutely.
Okay.
How have you seen the early enrollees at this class kind of transition into kind of life here at Ohio State? And is it kind of what you thought when you were like, yeah, this is a guy we want? Has it matched kind of the expectation that you had?
Yeah, right now they're just kind of running around cones and doing all that. But, as far as a few people have mentioned the strength staff-wise, how long this class is. So that's always one of the things we're looking for is length. And, so far those kids have come in with great attitudes, worked really hard. The Marvin Harrison syndrome is already paying off with the receivers. They're always out here now. The young guys catching balls together with Jelani as well. And so I think as a whole, it's been a great group. Luke was kind of the leader in that class during the cycle, and he's trying to be the leader right now as well with that group. So we're excited. They're great kids, and we think they have a bright future. Hoping a lot of them get to play this year, and we think they should.
You mentioned Luke, and and obviously from the outside looking in, you say he played that leadership role in acquiring a lot of this 2023 talent. I mean, from the inside, like, what did that look like? Was he, calling you guys, or were you calling him, say, hey, push on this kid a little bit, we want him? Or what did that kind of look like between you and him?
Yeah, I think he just kind of knew based on, he's reading Twitter as well and, seeing what's being reported and everything. So, and when he's on campus, for a game, we're like, hey, Luke, this kid's here this weekend. If you don't mind spending some time with him. So Luke was great. He wanted to, build the best class he could as well.
To piggyback on the Ohio stuff, there's the Lukes, the CJs, the Jacks of the world where they do get it early, and it's obvious why they get it early. But then there are the other types of kids who maybe have to wait on it a little bit. Does it sometimes you see kids get frustrated when they do have to wait a little bit to get that offer?
Yeah, I think they do. Some understand more than others, but a great example this past class is Jermaine Matthews. He's probably a little frustrated, but Tim Walton did a great job just building that relationship. Comes to camp, balls out, as he thought he would, and got his offer, and he couldn't be more proud of himself for earning the offer. And you try to tell the stories of the Darren Lees and those guys who came and fought for it. But I get it. Sometimes other schools offer way more easily. You hand out high volume of offers compared to us in general, and so that probably makes it a little bit more difficult to feed into their frustrations. But we try to at least educate them and tell them our process and how we do things, and usually they understand.
I guess because you said over evaluation, because they are right down the street and they can come to every camp
exactly,
and you see them all the time.
Right.
Is there a balance with that and how you have to kind of approach that?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to over-evaluate and lose a kid, but then sometimes you over-evaluate and you get a kid like Jermaine, as you just mentioned, who's now we're wondering if he can play this year.
Yeah, my biggest worry, I guess, in the state of Ohio, for Ohio kids who can come here so often, is they come here at the end of their sophomore year, going into their junior year, so they're still 15 years old. Their bodies haven't developed, and say they run a bad 40 time. Well, that 40 time may, always be placed on that kid's head for no fault of their own, but they were just young and underdeveloped and not strong enough yet, where you wish you could have had them after their junior year. Now, will they be patient enough to come, or is that going to be too late in the process? So, those are the things you sometimes worry about, is that you may have worked them out at too young of an age, and so that first impression may not have been the real impression.
So that's where the national kids maybe, like Brandon Ennis came here for a camp once, and he's a dude by then. So that's maybe where the national kids benefit in the way that Ohio kids don't.
Yeah, and Brandon was here, I think, after his junior year as well. So, again, we saw him, more at his peak. So really just trying to make that decision too early and not eliminate kids too early, based on something where they haven't developed yet.
How have you seen, I guess, the assistant coaches who are kind of, weren't ingrained in Ohio State, whether it's Perry, whether it's Justin, how have you seen them kind of get involved in Ohio high school football? Like, how have they kind of adapted to saying the culture of securing those in-state guys and kind of learning what what you guys want out of an Ohio kid?
Yeah, just educating them, and just as we're meeting and looking at their board of okay, this may be the national kid, but let's put a percentage on what's our chances of really getting this kid. He's probably the best player talent-wise, but and then you're looking at academics, you're looking at character, so you're weighing in all these factors, and you come to the Ohio kid maybe a little bit few spots down compared to the national kids, but hey, this kid's really good, he's got upside, he's a great kid, great GPA, great family, right down the road. And so we have those conversations of how they fit into the national landscape, and so they understand pretty quick, and in today's world we really understand some of these national kids that you may make their top 5, but at the end of the day, or top 3 or whatever it is, that could change very quickly. So
thank you, Mark.
Yep. Thanks, guys.